Camera for Donny.
Go for Donny.
Sound for Donny.
Go for Donny.
Makeup for Donny.
Go for Donny.
We're looking for Donny.
Go for Donny.
Grip department for Donny.
Go for Donny.
Or go for Donny.
Go for Donny.
Tanner for Donny.
Go for Donny. Guys, ladies, gentlemen, we have Tanner frickin' Foust on the podcast today. Tanner, how you doing, man?
I'm good. You've introduced me a couple times. You always throw a frickin' in there. I got to figure out what that means. Is that a good thing?
That's a totally good thing. Frickin'
Yes.
means like amazing, the best, the cream of the crop. Like, you rise to the top, Tanner. So yeah, frickin' means you're amazing.
Well, I'll take it. It's
Hey,
good
everybody.
to see ya.
Yeah, just so you know, I'm Donny. I'm your host, and that is Tanner Foust. And Tanner and I worked on Top Gear USA for a few seasons together, and we have so many fun, crazy stories, and hopefully I can jar his memory. But I want everyone to stay tuned for GoForDonny Switch to Channel 2, where we'll get a chance to ask our guests some more questions that the listener wants to know. We'll also have an amazing car enthusiast that has some insane knowledge on all types of vehicles. He'll ask a few questions from his perspective, but the catch is he's only 15, right?
Yeah, that's
Right?
awesome. I love that.
Crazy stuff. So,
Yeah.
Tanner, we worked together for 5 seasons.
Yep.
So we've known each other for, I don't know, 2011, 15 years now.
Right. And 5 seasons on this show was like 600 days of filming. Like,
Yeah, thank you for correcting. Yeah, it wasn't just like a few weeks.
Yeah, no, it's not like Pawn Stars or something where they pump out 3 shows a day. It was like 6-7 days a show, plus voiceovers and all that. So we were on the road. I hung out with you more than I hung out with anybody. So that's
Right.
that's you're on the road 150 plus days a year.
And that's why I think we were so close, the whole crew and you as hosts, we were so close together because we spent so much time together. And getting into it and what we did on set for the viewers and the listeners don't know about Top Gear is we did some fun, crazy things with vehicles. I'm sorry. Tanner did some fun, crazy things with vehicles. And so there was this level of trust that we had to build between, especially Tanner and myself, because I was the AD on set and Tanner was ripping around corners and coming up mountains, needing to know that it was all clear so he could do what he had to do. So he had to trust me. So I feel that it took a little while for us to build that trust. I know it started, the first episode that we did together was in Texas, where
Was
we
it
did
herding
farm
cattle?
vehicles. It was herding cattle. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. We also did some fun stuff with your vehicles, like farm work. I don't know if you remember any of the farm work you did on those.
I think I carried shit. Yeah.
And where did you carry that shit to, Tanner?
I want to say that we dumped a healthy amount of shit in the streets of San Antonio, and I cannot believe that there have not been some formal complaints about that. That was
You're so right. So
yeah.
what we did is we I think you had the BMW.
Yeah.
Rutledge had the Miata. That's right, the Miata, because I was driving that around.
And Adam had a Maverick.
The Maverick, the piece of shit
Yes.
Maverick. And so you had buckets, right? I think you had buckets on the side of your BMW that you helped fill with shit,
Yeah.
with manure.
That's right.
And then Rutledge had a partition, I believe, in his Miata because it was a convertible. And who knows what Adam did? He probably cut the top off of it. And
Well, Rutledge filled his
Hacksaw.
whole car. Remember? He tried
Yeah.
to partition himself off and then fill the rest of the car with manure, which didn't work out that well, and it was all blowing around and in his mouth and the whole thing, because it was a convertible, obviously. My BMW, I remember, had like terrible suspension, so when you hit the brakes, it would bounce the nose down,
Yep.
and then the manure would flop out, and so I just started flopping down the highway. And right in front of the Capitol building. I mean, it's shameless, actually, now. But we were 12-year-olds.
Not only the Capitol building, Tanner. So what we did is we filled up, for everyone to know, we filled up the 3 vehicles with manure, and we had a police escort, and we had to take it from point A to point B. Well, on television, you got to fill up a lot of time. So you drive all the way around the belt loop in San Antonio with a couple of police officers. And for some reason, we went downtown and we ended up stopping. I don't know if you remember, we stopped right in front of the Alamo. And we have a lot of photos to reference
Yeah,
it.
that's right. It wasn't the Capitol building. My bad. My bad. It was the freaking Alamo.
The Alamo.
It's horrible. Yeah, it was the Alamo. And
We
it was
shit on the Alamo.
in front of, not on it, not just right in
you're
front.
okay.
Just
be fair.
just right off the front step. But it was unforgivable still. There's so many unforgivable things. Really, Donnie, this show should be called Unforgivable because the number of things that we did that were just terrible.
That was our first one of our first shoots together. Which spanned, like you said, 5 seasons, which they tack on 0.5 to each season. So we spent a lot of time together, but we had to get to know each other really quick. And you still there, Tanner?
Don't forget to check out the new podcast, GoForDonny.
Hey, everybody, we're back in here at GoForDonny. We just had a little technical issue. We had to chase down some Wi-Fi, and now that we've chased it down, we have a better signal, so that way we can see the beautiful Tanner Foust a lot better for all the fans and listeners out there.
Wow, when you say it like that in that sultry voice, it's nice.
So good looking. Let's see. We were talking about Texas, the first shoot, shitting on the Alamo, trust, and I think we left it kind of there between the trust and when I want to talk about the camaraderie, because I think what we were touching on earlier is you and I had developed this trust between each other. Excuse me. So that way, like I said, you would trust that everything was clear when he came ripping around the corner.
It was unfair too, some of it, because I was coming off of these big movie sets with 200 people on there, and the AD would have, like, on one movie I was doing, there were 95 PAs that were there to hold traffic, but they would have at least 10, 15, and then we would come to Top Gear where we were kind of a guerrilla outfit, and
Totally.
I mean, we'd have our permits and our ducks in a row, but still closing down a driveway or a hotel exit or something like that took a human, and we didn't have a lot of humans. So it was less about not necessarily trusting you or any individual. It was more about I just needed to figure out that, I had to assume more risk, I think, than I was used to driving around, just because there weren't so many helpers at your disposal. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. It was just me and a CHP officer and ripping up and down the road, looking for bogeys, hoping people didn't come out of dirt roads.
Yeah, and the CHP officer, I mean, a lot of times we weren't even shooting in LA. Like, CHP officers are sort of used to it all. Sometimes we're shooting in Texas or South Carolina or whatever, and they're just like, oh, hell yeah, do whatever you want. This is awesome, and they would just let you have at it. So then you assume some more risk because they're not maybe anticipating the problems. But I always felt like I was half host, half dry, half. Is there three? They're not three halves. So I was one part host, one part driver, and then definitely one part like kind of stunt coordinator, safety.
100%. Tanner, can we do this? Is this safe? Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I suppose. You would say no sometimes. You would say no. Like, no, it's not safe. But I don't think we would ask for anything too crazy. At least I wouldn't. I don't know about the producers.
No. Everybody real quick had an understanding of how, like, what was good and what wasn't. So that's like,
right.
Yeah.
Right. And we did have a lot of good times with all of our law enforcement that we worked with across the country and globally, actually. So, I mean, I can't tell you how many times we threw you guys in the backseat of a CHP cruiser or
story of my life,
Illinois State Trooper cruiser to get you guys to the airport, or
Oh yeah, so a lot of times they would do like an escort, and some crazy motorcycle cop with the Death Witch, which I was in San Francisco. I don't know where we finished up. We were up on top of a hill or something in San Francisco.
We were up on Twin Peaks. That's where we did. You guys, we ended up there. I don't know, scooters or cabs or something, but we ended up top there, and you guys had to get to the airport, and he escorted you guys down to SFO.
Yes, and all back streets, all wasn't going to take the freeway. I mean, it was bomber. That was super fun. I just remember Rutledge during the show would go 10 miles an hour under the speed limit, but if we were within a 3 hour window of our flight, he'd just be like, "Go, man, go! Hammer down, go!" Like he would get such anxiety about missing a flight that it just threw caution to the wind and he'd just go for it. But for 4 days straight, he was like 10 miles an hour under the speed limit up to that.
Well, since we're talking about law enforcement, and there was a time up in outside of Detroit where we got you guys an escort with our stadies to the airport. But if we rewind a little bit from that shoot, we got kind of kicked out of Detroit for some reason.
That was my bad, yeah.
By Sergeant Stinson.
That was my bad. I misread the situation. Yeah.
So let me tee it up for you guys, listeners. So we're in Detroit and we're filming an episode of Cop Cars, where we have all the latest, newest cop cars that were going to be out for that year. And so we had a permit, and we did a little scene in a part of Detroit where, let's see, it was Adam and Rutledge first in their vehicles, and then followed by Tanner, and then followed by Stig. And so they were just going to come around the corner, and then Tanner and Stig were going to duck into this alley. And so we were about to go, and there's some people around, but we had it locked off, and we had our Detroit officer with us. And right before you guys went, right before I hit action, or said action, she was like, "They're not going to go fast, are they?" And I'm like, "No, they're not going to go fast." And I called action. And then you guys come ripping around the corner, and then Stig's on your tail, and you guys duck into that alleyway. And then she turns to me and she's like, "I thought you said we weren't going fast." She goes, "You guys are out of here." So she pulled our permit right then. She shut us down. I don't think I don't know if you remember that.
Oh yeah, it was a right-hander around. Yep. It was a right-hander around a lawn, which apparently on the porch were some kids watching.
Yep.
Pretty far off the road, I'll say, but I came through there full lock, full drift, and when we walked, like, when Rupert showed us like where we're going to go and where you're talking about where we're going to end up, I was already like, okay, so I'm going to come over and then I'm going to parking brake it and kind of like link into this, and I think I got enough room I can kind of drift up the curb into the alley. It's going to be sweet.
Yep.
All right, so I already knew exactly what I was going to do, and yeah, the only thing between me and drifting the crap out of that road and that Crown Vic was the word action. So when I heard it, came on, and I remember she just walked out. Her arms were just like this, and I saw you looking at her like,
yeah,
yeah. It was a lot of ask for forgiveness on that show for sure.
Oh, bless her heart, Sergeant Stinson. Thank you so much. We knew you had to do your job, and you kicked us out of town. Then we ended up going up to just outside of Detroit, and we filmed with some stadies up there. I think by the fairgrounds, I want to believe, but we did go back there. But before we left, we had another issue on set. Yeah. It took about an hour before we found out what happened to it. So it's a mad scurry because for some reason, one of the keys went missing to one of the vehicles that when you guys were driving.
Problem.
And so like, we're looking everywhere, man. I mean, people were like freaking out. About an hour goes by. And then for some reason, the key turned up. It just magically turned up, Tanner. I don't know.
I don't
where have it been?
The microphone, I think, again. Maybe if you you know what? It wasn't that shoot. There was another one in LA where it was cold. Rutledge was using my Touareg that I had there as a warming hut. And I said, "Oh yeah, okay, I'll leave the keys in the cup holder. As long as the keys are in there, fire it up, warm yourself up." So we do the whole shoot day. It's the end of the day. I get in the car, and big hugs goodbye, and everybody's goodbye, and I'm driving actually home because we're shooting near LA. I'm on the 605, going reasonably quick, and I just hear and sort of see something go whoosh, right up the windshield, and it was the keys Rutledge had left on the windshield, and I mean, I was going like 90 miles an hour on the road, and it was,
oh my gosh,
there's no chance that I was going back. That's the flow of traffic in LA.
Yeah, of course.
I had a meeting I had to go to downtown on my way in this really kind of hard district of downtown. Wasn't picking up drugs or anything. It
Yeah, what
was a
district?
meeting.
What
This is
district was that?
yeah, the drug district. It's no, it was like this guy had like this 360 simulator studio that we're gonna
Oh,
check out anyway. So I had to pull the car into a warehouse and just leave it running because I couldn't turn it off,
you
couldn't
can't turn
start
it
it
off.
again. Left it running for 2 hours and then drove it home. And then Volkswagen was nice enough to send a key in the next day. But yeah, so I hope that deferred or deflected some of
No,
the.
no. I think you just deflected on what we were just talking about. I think you tried to put it on Rutledge on a different story instead of actually fessing up to what happened with that key.
I don't even remember that. I had traumatic amnesia, maybe. I don't know. I don't even
So
remember
let
the
me
key
let me
thing. What kind of
refresh
car
your
was it?
memory. So we couldn't find
Okay.
it, and it took forever. And then all of a sudden, it came out of nowhere. And come to find out, it was in your coin pocket the whole time.
Ooh, that does sound familiar.
Oh yeah,
That's familiar. Yeah. And what,
yeah.
here's the deal, Levi's. What's the deal with the coin? Who needs a coin pocket? It's just there to lose keys,
Oh,
basically. Yeah. I think we all
we
learned
looked
a
around for
valuable lesson.
literally an hour, Tanner, and you didn't say anything either.
Mm.
You just kind of put it somewhere and just oh, here's the key. I found the key. So
I'm sure I didn't wait that long before I called it out, but yeah,
that
that's
was fun.
yeah.
Detroit was fun. That was one of the first of maybe 2 or 3 times we were up there. And then we went up, shot up states, and then we got you guys a ride in the cruisers in traffic to the airport to get you guys out of there. And then I think we went back and we filmed with Sergeant Simpson again. And Silby was like best friends with Sergeant Simpson at that point. And I think that's
She
when we
was
shot.
awesome.
Yeah, I think that's when we did
Yeah,
Corvette, the Stingray.
she shut us down 6 blocks, and we made a racetrack out of downtown. And Rupert, of course, had this artsy whole thing put together where it's going to be like one blue car, and you're like talking to yourself, and it was hard to imagine how it was going to come out. It's one of those things that he was the only one that could kind of visualize it, I guess. But and then the cars were like superimposed, and so I don't even know how you did the camera moves so that they were consistent.
I
Were
think
they
everything was
robotic?
locked off. Yeah, we had 2 lock-offs. So we did like the blue car had it locked off
Yeah,
for just a blue car, and then we changed everything and
yeah,
locked it off for the red one.
yeah. And it was like a robotic move with the camera type of thing, so that it was identical each time. I've
Yeah.
seen like the Red Bull Air races. I've seen them do that where they put one plane kind of on top of another one. Um, Even though they're racing minutes apart, you could see them. So that was cool. But yeah, she had. I don't know how she got turned around. That was Silby did that one, I
Totally,
guess.
Sylvie pulled it out. But that was awesome because we were in and around the old Masonic temple, which is beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful and it's just desolate around there. And I remember trying to lock off those streets it was kind of interesting because we did this at night and there are a lot of people just wandering around, walking the streets that you were trying not to
Yeah,
hit.
and we were driving very fast.
What was
Um,
that you're driving?
a Corvette C7 or C8, C7, I think, and it was the traction control, stability control guys claimed that the TC was faster than with it all turned off. We were
That's
on
right.
bumpy streets, so we ended up proving that wrong. It was faster without, but on a smooth racetrack, maybe they were right. But that's what it was. Remember now that
Yeah.
I just remember like Rupert saying, "Okay, don't forget. Now you're going to talk to yourself here for a little bit, and I was like, oh my God, this is going to turn out so cheesy, but okay, let's do it. You won the BAFTA, let's go."
You're the BAFTA director. Okay. Rum,
Yeah,
rum, rum,
let's
rum,
get
rum.
this guy. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Classic.
no, there.
Well, that was a lot of fun.
I always enjoyed the ones where we got to drive fast. There were kind of like two different shows that formed. It was like drive fast in like a super cool car, or old cars that we owned that we could just crash into each other for no good reason. And I don't know. I mean, I think you laugh harder when we had the old cars and you could
Yeah,
just like
totally.
pin Adam's door closed and he had to climb out of the passenger seat or something. That kind of stuff is kind of like jumping a rental car. It's that sort of like just 12-year-old laugh that you just cannot stop you can't get it out of your gut. But I always did like when we got a supercar and something new and got to just shred.
Do you have anything come to the top of your mind? One of your favorites?
Well, I mean, we did an episode actually in Steamboat, where I am right now. That was one of my
that's
favorites.
right.
When you remember, we did the convertibles, and I had a Porsche Turbo, of course. Adam,
Oh, it's amazing.
who knows what he had? Rutledge had a
He had
BMW,
so
I
we had
think.
so Rhett had that BMW, that I one. I didn't like
Yeah.
it. I drove that, and
Yeah.
then the Jaguar.
Oh yeah, Adam had a Jaguar, some
Jaguar.
old man car,
Yeah.
Jaguar, and yeah, we got to drive on the mountain. That was cool to drive on the actual slope, which I skied on today. So I literally skied right down the run that we drove down, and
Lucky.
then yeah, we went out to the ice track. But one of the coolest things when we were out in the neighborhood that was out like south of town,
Mhm.
there was a fresh layer of snow, and we would just lock off the road and just come pitch it around, and that's just like a boyhood dream to not get in trouble for sending it through these corners and then do it with a $200,000 sports car with snow tires and everything. Convertible, not convertible, didn't matter that much at that point, but it was just, grabbing gear sideways and that thing. Oh, that was awesome. Yeah.
That handled well.
That was-
I mean, I got to take that for a little spin down where you're talking, and
So quick.
man, it just handles so well in the snow and ice.
So how much damage happened to the cars off camera? When you say I got to take that thing around or whatever.
You know what? Honestly, I've never destroyed anything off camera. I've never wrecked anything
Except
being on
a
top gear.
Suburban.
Well, that's Rupert, and a flat tire here and there, a flat tire here, like everywhere.
Well, that's well. Yeah, sure. I mean, okay.
or putting the Suburban on two wheels, on the two left wheels, the two
the occasional
like Rupert liked to do.
bumper. I think the rear door damaged one time from the strap.
You did a number on the Range Rover in Pismo.
I did. Oh no, this is no competition of who's done more damage. That's for sure me.
Well, no, we're actually, it's so funny. We actually have a whole episode dedicated to Adam.
Oh yeah, I remember when he protested that he had been called in the show on the bottom third, the wrecker, and he was like, "Come on," It's like, and everybody's like, "Well, you do like wreck everything, and even when the cameras aren't rolling." And he's like, "Yeah, but okay, fine." He just like accepted it.
I mean, I
And
could
it
think of
was,
a couple, like in Pismo with the what did he have? He had the Cadillac. Didn't he take the front end off? He was driving on the beach
In the
and there
parking
was like
garage. In Pismo, yeah.
in Pismo, and he hit it like a ditch. Maybe it was Ryland that did it. Someone took the front end off, and then of course Iceland.
What happened in Iceland? Oh, he went
So-
into the. Oh yeah, he went into.
That's a
the,
good transition,
crevasse.
Tanner. So that's another fun time that we had was we went to Iceland and we did a journey with you guys in Iceland and drove all around the island and up through the glaciers and up onto Eyjafjallajökull.
Tell me you
and-
practiced that one.
No, man,
That's
ever
the
since we were in
genuine
Iceland.
word. That's the
If-
actual word.
When you go out with Vikings and you go
Yeah.
have some pints after a week of being there, you start talking like the Icelandic people.
I just remember him always coming on the radio here on the glacier, and he would preface every piece of advice. Well, okay, here on the glacier, and Rutledge would walk around here on the glacier, and it was like, yeah, we did that. How long were we? It was at least 2 nights, right?
Oh, I think it was more than that because I think we broke it up. It was 2 nights because we did stay up there at that little shack.
Yeah, it was 2 nights on the actual volcano when we
Yep.
went up the volcano. And these trucks were incredible. They were amazing. 1 PSI and these giant balloon 44-inch tires. And they had the gearing so low that they would walk up stuff idling. It was incredible. Adam had like an old army truck or something. And
He had the old
Rutledge had a
Navy
Scout.
Adam had the old Navy Silverado, Chevy Silverado.
Rutledge had a Scout,
Mm-hmm.
which is a brand that's coming back to life, actually.
I love them.
Volkswagen bought it.
Ooh.
I had a I was racing for Ford at the time. You guys did an amazing job of always slotting me into something that was brand,
Is that an
appropriate.
Interceptor? Is that an Interceptor? No. Is that a
Yeah,
Taurus?
that
No.
is. I'm pretty sure. Made by Ford. So I was racing for Ford at the time, so I had a Bronco, which was I don't even know how you found that thing, but that thing was awesome.
Like a 78
Yeah,
or
70,
something?
but it had
Or,
all the freaking air lock, diff, air this, and all the gearing was so insane, and the heaters on those things just crank. Anyway, and lights, remember, big spotlights. And we get up there, and it's snowing and blowing so hard that nobody can see anything, including the cameras. So we could have shot the whole thing in the hotel parking lot down in Reykjavik. And I just remember Rutledge. The best is when we're going through one valley over to this other valley, right? And it was a long hike up there, right?
Yep.
Days. And we're going through one valley, and we're going at a mile or two an hour, right? And
very slow, yeah.
we're going over a crest into another valley, and that second valley is where it happens to be written that we're going to have Rutledge. We're going to cue Rutledge getting stuck there, and it's going to be the unstuck thing. And it's like, that this gets written in LA in a cubicle, like just in case nothing is exciting, maybe we'll have somebody get stuck. And but there you could never fathom what the reality is. And so we're digging Rutledge's ass out time after time in the valley on the way to get Rutledge stuck. And so Rutledge is just on the radio, like, how about we film me getting stuck for real? He's like, just, where's here we are, we're stuck, trying to go get stuck, and he couldn't see one of the best parts about shooting that show. And it sounds like, we're like bickering at each other. It's just not. When you have and I know having a teenage daughter now, especially, when you get to a point where you're pretty much family with people, you just say what's on your mind.
Yeah.
Even if an outsider or your friend's parents would think that's really rude, in the family, it all makes sense. So when we talk about this later, about somebody, drilling into the radio, that's just one of the kids talking to the parents. It happens all the time. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And yeah, so we go, and then we make it up there. We get Rutledge stuck in the Rutledge Valley, and then we get up to the top. And I think that the clouds kind of broke. Well, first of all, we stayed in that barn.
Remember the shack?
Remember
the shack that we had to break through that thick ice to even get inside of it?
Yeah, it had this cool double door with a big, actually this house has that, with a big mud room that's cold to the next door, kind of a thing, but it had hanging shovels and ice picks just to break the door open. And it was up on the very top of a hill. So when the wind was blowing, that's the only way they could keep it out of like drifts, was to put it right on the peak of a mountain. And otherwise the house would just be gone in the winter. Except one side of the house, the leeward side of the house, just had a wall of snow coming off of it, the height of the house. You remember that?
Yep.
And so we get out there. We have 29 people.
Wow, that's
Does
pretty
that
good
sound
memory.
right?
29 people? Wow.
Well, I remember that cabin was good for about 7.
Thank you. Yeah, and we had the double bunk beds, which I want to find out who you bunked with. And then there were
I was
drivers
with
and people
Adam.
sleeping in the trucks. Oh, you did? Okay.
I was nut to butt with Adam, and I
I was with Big Papa, with me and Rhett shared
Okay.
ours.
Yeah, I could hear you. Snoring, nothing else. I'm not kidding. It's just snoring. Go easy, big
A symphony
guy.
of snoring, man.
Yo, it was. I woke up. I made the mistake of waking up in the middle of the night, and the place was just reverberating. It was comical. It was like somebody was just effing with you. There's no way that was genuinely all those people actually. And it was a hard day, and I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure there was some booze or something, but everybody was sawing logs. I really did want to sleep in the truck. I did go outside. The Northern Lights were insane. I don't know
They
if
were
you
amazing
remember
that night. Yep. We went out and saw them. We were filming them.
Somebody did a time lapse. I remember that.
Yep.
Was just incredible.
Yep. We were outside doing the time lapse. And on that side, I think that it like dropped off. Didn't it like drop off pretty far? Like on one side of the house, so you didn't go on that side. I think that's the side they were filming the lights. Yeah.
Yeah, the truck was a good place to sleep that night, but it was cold, windy. Anyway, we get going, we get up to the top. The clouds finally part. They parted at night there for whatever reason. So the northern lights there, and then at the very top. And I remember we were done filming,
Yep.
and we were kind of exploring around a little bit, and I saw like a bump, like when Rutledge went over a bump. That was kind of weird. Adam was kind of sliding his truck around. Here we are, as far as you could get from help, right? And this is where we choose to dick around. And Adam's kind of sliding his truck around, and he happened to go right in line with that bump where Rutledge went, and it turned out that it was a crevasse. And he dips the tire in there. And that like ugly ass truck that he had the headlights down on the like sides. And so it dipped it in, and the headlight lit up this ice blue cathedral underneath the snow that he said looked like a parking garage, an empty parking garage that was all right beneath all of us. And the very calm Icelandic guys got on the radio. Okay, we would like everybody to remain still. Just want to say this is not an emergency. We just have one car, and I just see Adam, and my headlights are lighting him up. Adam's got the radio. He's like, it's like grabbing a fish. He's like, not an emergency. Get the fuck over here. He's like screaming. He's screaming at the top
He's
of
like
his
halfway
lungs,
into
and everybody's
crevasse.
like,
Oh.
yeah, everybody's like, remain calm. He's like, don't nobody's calm. Get your fucking ass over. And he's just like the opposite of how you're supposed to be in that scenario. But it was, yeah. They
And
got him out.
that was the last thing we did that day. I'll never forget that as well. We were just like you said, it was socked in, and then all of a sudden the clouds just went away, and it was beautiful. And I have a photo of me at the rim of the volcano. And then right after that, that's when you guys were driving around, and I saw fucking that just dipped down like that. And then what I saw, because I was up with everyone else, is all those Icelandic guys took off down there, and they had everyone out and the truck out pretty quick.
I was, I don't know, 20 yards from Adam, but where he was kind of doing donuts and stuff, like I was pointing at him. So I had the headlights on him.
Jeez.
And what they did is they all got their rope packs out, and they basically just spider webbed everything together. So before one of them would go out to the truck, he would be connected to like 2 or 3 different points. So if 1 or 2 went down, there was always a point that didn't go down. And they basically just coated the thing with the spider web, and then they got Adam out and then worked to tow the truck. It was really methodical, and you could tell that was what they do. And almost you could tell the trip wasn't going to be as much fun for them unless something happened like that.
As long as they can
as long as
test their
nobody got
skills.
hurt. Yeah, they got to pull the ropes out. But yeah, I don't even think the cameras are rolling.
No, because we stopped. Literally, we were done, and we were getting ready to go, and you guys were off fucking off, and it was the last thing that was happening. But God, man, I remember Geesley, our guide, because I was in the front. Geesley, I was in the front vehicle with him and Rupert, and he would drive by GPS, and there was a line, and he said that he would not go off. He doesn't deviate; like he stays on that line.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what's out there? He's like, crevasses.
Yeah.
So like whenever you had to go to the bathroom, you don't go far from that line. You stay close to the vehicle, or else drop into the crevasse. Like,
I mean, he had done the whole Antarctic twice or something. The only person to do that. I think I got him a supercharger or something for his truck because I was changing from Ford to Toyota, and remember he had that orange Tundra.
Beautiful Helix.
I took a picture of it. Yeah, I guess sort of more like a Tacoma. I took a picture of it and sent it to the Toyota guys, and they loved it, and sent him it was a weird thing, actually, probably shouldn't even talk about it, but sent him a supercharger, but they couldn't send it to him because then he would get taxed on it so much for bringing it in the country. So I was like, oh, we tried, Geesley, sorry, that's too bad it didn't work out. And then he calls me back, he's like, I have a friend who flies for Icelandic Airlines. If you will meet him at a gas station near LAX and give him the supercharger. So I literally, and you know how the gas stations are near LAX, like you don't stop for long.
Sketch.
Yeah. And so I get out of there and we do the deal, and I like transition this box into his thing, and he's like, thank you very much. How was the glacier? And then, he just put it in the cockpit and took it back to Iceland with him.
Holy crap, that's so cool! I never
Yeah.
knew that. You know,
Yeah,
so
it's
didn't
pretty
he?
awesome.
I want to say Gisley built the suspension for that truck or
He did
designed it.
a lot of that stuff. Yeah, because the rear trailing link I think was completely different. They kind of innovated in some of their like compressor things they did. I mean, they did a lot to those trucks, not just gearing. The whole back end, the whole storage. This is all pre like overlanding and everything you see now, but they were
Right.
coming up with that stuff, and they'd been doing it for decades because they've been going to doing these excursions to Antarctic through the Antarctic. Um, to go out to ships, to icebreaker ships and stuff. I mean, there's that are stuck out there and all of that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? He did some rad stuff. That was a cool crew.
Oh man, I'd love to go back out there and do something in Iceland. Go back, take
Yeah,
another tour with him.
that was good. And it was, we did a lot of international stuff, but I did like a lot of the homegrown stuff too. Not just because there's a little bit less travel, but because I mean, there's just so much in the States that you
Yeah,
just don't get to see.
yeah,
And you can just fly right over it. I mean, a lot of people don't realize how big the desert is between California and like the Rockies. Like just that whole desert. And we shot and it's a playground for filming. It really is.
right.
But our one that I remember was like the rental car episode where, which I love the concept was to see
Yep.
who could like get the full waiver on the rental car and pick the
Mm-hmm.
best one. I don't even know if we knew the route exactly before we got the cars, but
Nope. That
yeah,
was the
and it
Navajo
was,
Nation to Moab, right?
yes, 140 miles or something through gnarliness.
Yep.
And to Moab, exactly. It ended up in Moab. I recently was in Moab and I drove down the road where that cliff is, where
Where you dropped your car? Where you dropped the old Lincoln?
yes, but where Adam defaced that poor guy's like. You remember he had that big rock spire that had been there
Yes.
since the beginning of time, and his freaking Mustang tagged that thing and dropped about 40 tons of rock. And remember at the end of the shoot, Everett Rupert's like, everybody's happy. What's a wrap? We're done. Everybody just sort of packs up into the Suburbans, and we start making our way to Moab, where it's going to be difficult to get a beer, but we're going to try. And we look back, and I'm thinking, what's this guy going to do with this 40-ton pile of rock that we just left? Like, you can't just get a bobcat out and move that stuff. So I don't know how that landowner dealt with that.
That was, dude. That was like one of my favorite shoots for multiple reasons. I don't. Well, you remember I think the last day we were in. It was after Adam killed the Mustang and left it out to die out there.
Yeah.
It took us like, I don't know. I want to say 8 hours to go a mile or something stupid because there's all the rock crawling, and we just couldn't get everyone out. So it came to a point where we're like, we got to get out of here to get people back to Moab. So that's when you guys all fucked off. And then Rupert and I stayed and drove the Yaris, and your Lincoln without any shocks the rest of the way
I
to
know it
Jim.
had a piece of pipe replacing the shock. It was a backbreaker, and it all came from. And I think I broke it launching it, like just doing neutral drops. I don't think I even broke it from the terrain. I think it was like a watch this launch thing, and I was just neutral dropping it from a full rev limit, like
Jesus.
just a complete dickhead. But it was rental car episodes. What you're supposed to do. But yeah, I had a little bit of an epiphany when we, as you said, fucked off, and I think I'll give Rutledge credit for ringing the chime that we shouldn't hang out for another 8 hours after
Yep.
12 hours and then do another show the next day. We should go find a hotel somewhere.
Yep.
But if you remember, we had a little Polaris.
Yep, I remember. Yeah, the reason why you say that, because I just told someone the other day, you were getting on me for having it in four-wheel drive. You're like basically calling me a wuss. You're like, dude, why are you ever going to have it in four-wheel? You need to have this in two-wheel. And then you took off and you showed me, like, this is why. So, yeah, I remember.
And it was super fun. I mean, it was like maybe a 900 or a 700. But the last thing that I had seen that you actually drove in like that was like a Honda Odyssey from like I mean, that's dating you and me. The fact that
Wow.
you're nodding is you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
That's
Oh,
way
yeah.
back there, right? That's like in the 80s, 90s. That thing was so fun. Now I'm sponsored by Polaris. I've got a bunch of them, love them. Building an ice track on like a
What?
field outside for
What?
them. Oh yeah, love them. But that was the first time I'd ever seen one, driven one. And who was the producer that I took with me? Beardy.
It may have been Beardy because he had to get out to get the tow truck and go back out to get the Mustang.
I think it was Beardy. So we went and just sent it on these windy ass roads and chucked rocks off a cliff, and you'd come around the next one and you'd see your own rocks still flying in the air. And I mean, it was just like, I was like, that was the best time of the whole shoot in some ways. I was like, I got to figure out how to get one of these things. But that was awesome. But anyway, being out there, America just has so much cool terrain that you don't get to go to. And then to have a team of very talented producers, directors, and assistant directors, and like kind of put together a fun book. It's almost like if somebody could come to you and say, like, these are my perfect 3 days kind of a thing. And, we were all busy. It's a job also.
Right.
But at the same time, you look back at it and you're just like, you cannot, there's no vacation. Can you imagine if you did a Top Gear vacation company where you could go and just bash the shit out of cars and jump them and hang out with your buddies and have some drinks at night and then get up, shake the hangover off by jumping a car off the train tracks or something and laughing your ass off. And I mean, it was an ultimate. It was like ultimate vacation. It happened in a time when all of us were very, very busy. But yeah, and you had very talented people like putting together the route and what you're going to do. So that made it super fun.
That's very well put. I think that's what helped bring everyone together too. I mean, with the camaraderie. I just, like I always say, I've never replicated that on anything else I've done, just because we were so close. I felt lucky that I got to get paid to hang out with some of my closest friends, to drink with some of my closest friends, and to do stupid shit with some of my closest friends.
And because it was documented, it was okay.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, the stuff that we did, dude. I mean, you're a stunt driver. The stuff that I got to do, it's just so much fun. I mean, that's why I just had so much fun. Like the Yaris, rock crawling, freaking Yaris in Moab. I mean, you don't get to do that. I got to drift. And you do all this shit, so it's okay for you. But like drifting that motorhome, that 35-foot motorhome around that dirt track in North Carolina with homemade RVs. Shit like that. You're just like, what am I doing here? But it's so awesome, much fun. Yeah, it's so much fun.
Yeah, I do get to do the stunts, and I get to slide cars around a lot and have fun with that. But what I don't get to do and have not, and probably will not get to do again, is like the Yaris, for example. Remember we pulled off the side of the road and did like a race through a field, which was probably not all mud.
Because I have like a lot of bacteria and like.
Well, and it was like a leaching field and who knows what, right? And so when Rutledge gets stuck, the best is we're all just sitting and nobody knows exactly what's going to happen, but I'm sure the hope is somebody's going to get stuck or whatever. But we're all sitting on the roof of our cars and Rupert gives Rutledge a little look like, and Rutledge's like, no fucking way. He's like, He's like, okay, once, there's some deal done that Rutledge is going to take one for the team, roll up his sleeves and just jump in and wade his ass around in that shit.
Yeah.
And like try to tow his ass out. And you can't help but I think it was one of the least scripted reality shows in TV.
Yeah.
We set up the outline of what was supposed to happen. And then what did happen was definitely a variation of that, and then just went with it.
Right.
And I think reality TV in general is so much more crafted and scripted than that. But we couldn't have it any other way. We were not good actors. So there's no, that I've tried acting on various things. And as Adam Ferrara says, anybody can sing in the shower. So
Right.
when you
Yeah.
get a couple lines you have to do in a movie, which I've had to do, you can say them by yourself all the time and nail it. But when it's like, 100 people waiting to go to lunch, it's really hard.
And again,
And
and again.
yeah,
See it and
exactly.
again. One more.
And so the fact that we were just allowed to be ourselves and just say whatever came out, and it's not just trust with you, like locking things down or making sure everything is safe and communicated well. There's a huge amount of trust that goes into editing, and that I can be myself, whether that's dirty jokes, whether
Right.
that's saying some inappropriate stuff, whether that's being boring, whether that's whatever. And in the editing, they're going to take care of all of us and not make any of us look like jerks.
Right.
Because we gave enough of just the pureness of four guys sometimes pissed off at each other, three guys. Well, I guess not counting the steak, he doesn't count, but three guys not sometimes tired, sometimes frustrated with each other, and
Hangry.
driving hangry, driving way too slow, whatever. We laid it out. We laid it out in like a pretty pure way that very easily could have been the low-hanging fruit for something spicy on TV that was bad, that just made you look bad. That's that. This is the first show I've ever worked on, and I'd done about 7 small shows before this. First show I ever worked on where I was really comfortable that you could literally just be yourself. You could, if your joke involved a cuss word or whatever, you just say it. They'd bleep it if they needed to or whatever. You
Right.
didn't have to worry about what other people would think because they would in editing take care of it. And let you personality or who you are be the important part, not get you kind of in hot water. So there's a blackmail reel out there on all of us.
Well, there's a lot of stuff. I mean,
100%.
excuse me, that could transition into what we had. So when we're out on set, they're long days, especially when Tanner said when we're filming out in the desert. It's very hot out there. It's dusty. There's no showers. And so you got to cut loose sometimes. And every once in a while we'd have a drink or two. And sometimes that would turn into just a impromptu dance party out in the middle of the desert.
Shirt off dance party. I know she left that one out. I knew where you were headed because, yeah, that happened a lot. And when you have somebody like Senior on board, who I think the only time he wears a shirt is from like 9 to 5, and then
Yeah.
and that's it. But yeah, suddenly everybody's dancing around. It looks like they're dancing around a keg, but they're not. They're just
Nope.
dancing around a 5-gallon barrel with an iPhone, and that's all there is. That's the only source of entertainment there is.
Oh, but it was fun and it was a memory. And there was only a few that didn't partake, and those few that didn't partake were in their tents or they were working on a Mustang like Jim Horn was. But we had a good time. I mean, and I think it just brought us closer together, and all those little times that we were together socially outside of work, I think brought us closer together.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that, 150 days a year. It's a lot, and we all had other jobs too. That was
Yeah,
the thing.
right?
Is everybody's doing other work. And those days I think I was traveling 320 days a year, which was a lot.
God.
Rutledge was starting to get more and more busy. Adam was working on a house that took all his time. You remember?
Is he still working on that?
Probably. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And Rutledge's kids were young then, and it was a point in time, and because the brand of Top Gear was valuable enough, I know for Rutledge and I anyway, especially, we were willing to make a lot of sacrifices and didn't really get paid that much money. A lot of people think that it's all like, it wasn't on the scale like the UK show.
Right.
Deservedly, UK show was in 300 markets or 200 markets, and it's like wildly successful. But it was a lot of time, and that was the double-edged sword. To your point, it was both made it difficult, made it edgy and tricky scheduling wise.
Yeah.
Hectic. I mean, our schedules were down to the hour, not the day.
Hmm.
And then, but it also meant that the relationships you made were way more genuine because you weren't just coming in for 3 days. Anybody can put a face on for 3 days
Right.
or 2 days, you know. We're coming in and we were digging pretty deep for a week. And then you combine that with, it was a pretty expensive show.
Yeah.
I think it
Yeah.
was a pretty, we talked about, like you mentioned, shows that you've worked on since, not cutting the mustard maybe on that kind of social itch getting scratched. And that was a fairly expensive show. So we were able to go do things and we were able to travel places and get ourselves into the woods further than a less funded show would be able to. So that was kind of a unique opportunity. And to your point, I don't know if that comes around again,
Right.
you know.
And it only took us 5 seasons to get a hydraulic jack on the truck to use on a car show. So I want to just touch on one more shoot that we did together.
Yeah.
One more fond memory, which was one of the military episodes when you got chased by the 101st Airborne in the G-Wagon.
I was talking about this just the other day, actually.
Ugh.
Yeah, that was, how epic was that? I mean, it must have been, you were in the Army?
Yep.
Yeah, and so we were fortunate enough, in Fort Irwin, we worked with the Army. We were fortunate enough, those were always the best shows. One, for a
I think
couple
so.
reasons. One was because the way the military operates, they don't do anything half-ass. And so once they got on board and it was part of a training thing or whatever the justification,
the training exercise,
yeah,
so that we
whatever
won't have to
it
pay for
was,
it. Yep.
yeah. Once they were on board, it was awesome, and you could tell they prepped for weeks. Everything was done right. They made their wives in the sniper episode at Fort Irwin made outfits for the shoot, because for the terrain they would be. I mean, it was like they were over the top. And that one, there were a couple key moments from the selfish driver side. One, figuring out how to turn the traction control off on that G-Wagon was a challenge.
That's right. What were you dealing with there, like the technical support?
Yeah. Once we got it off, though, holy balls, that thing was so fast. Like, I understand why they had all those safety systems on, because that thing shouldn't have been that allowed to go like it did.
Really?
But if you remember, sliding around sideways, the front wheels would spin so fast, all four would spin so fast, but the rocks coming off the front wheels sealed the exhaust pipe shut.
That's right.
Yeah, that were under the rockers. Just the rocks.
Sealed it shut. Oh.
Just smashed them so flat that we had to like pry them open. But it was fast, and I remember there were some rules of engagement. They obviously couldn't use missiles.
Yeah. Damn it, we tried.
Yeah, they were only allowed to use the drone for a certain amount of time, something like that. And that was cool. And that was the closest I'd come at that point to getting a Black Hawk helicopter. Remember, I got blindfolded.
Yep, I remember. So I can break it down for the viewers if you haven't seen it. We basically had the 101st Airborne chase Tanner down. So what it was is he had to get from point A to point B without getting caught. And we had the eye in the sky, which was the drone up above, getting the satellite view, so that way they can find where he was. We had 2 Kiowa helicopters that were chasing Tanner down. We had 3 or 4 MRATs that would pinch off points, so Tanner would have to push a certain way, where they would have a roadblock with some air assault troops. And they had a Black Hawk come down. The troops came out, set up a little stop sign with the what are the strips? The
tire strips.
Yeah, tire strip to pop your tires so you'd stop, and then you came running. We wanted them so bad to put you in the Black Hawk.
Pull me out of the window.
Yeah, like hog tie you.
Rip him out from the window. Don't worry about it. He's fine.
It looked so good, and people thought that. I mean, they did. They zip tied you, right?
Yep. Oh yeah, they dragged me out into the bushes, and then these 2 Blackhawks came down and landed. I swear, I was just waiting to get crushed. I mean, I was genuinely blindfolded. I couldn't see anything. I knew that we didn't have enough time at the end of the day to take the ride in the helicopter. But wow, the the prop wash from those things, the sound. They put a lot of things in perspective in those military shoots. I remember one shoot where a tank drove by, slid into place, and crashed through a puddle, and like Rutledge and Adam and I like dove off the side of the road while we were standing with this like 20-year-old officer, 24-year-old officer, dove off the road like, oh, they almost got us. We came up and there he was, like covered in mud, he didn't even flinch, didn't even blink, I don't think. And Rutledge's like, oh, you didn't get out of the way. He's like, what's it gonna kill me? It's like, that was it. I mean, he basically said, what a bunch of pussies. You know, he was so, but it was the truth. It's like they deal in things where they're like, their risk is just at a higher level. And, you know, when the colonels would come out, right?
Yeah.
They'd come out fully dressed, helmet strapped tight as could be all day long, carrying the pack with the guys. And, you know, they're the ones that just signed off on this massive, but like they have a huge amount of responsibility, but they lead by example. And after filming with the 101st, one of the helicopter pilots that we shot with died. I don't know if you knew that.
That's right, he did.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, they always gave you patches. They always gave you coins. They always, you know, it was always a little bit of a nut to crack because, you know, their work is very, very serious. But once they realized that, look, we're doing good work here in training, but we're doing it in a fun way, it was just such a nice thing to be a part of their sort of sigh of relief that, all right, we're going to have some fun with this then.
Right.
And, you know, for us, we're like, oh my God, that helicopter is amazing. And for them, that's their work tool. They're like, yeah, I guess it is actually. Yeah. You know, and so it was nice to kind of be a little bit on the fun side of what is normally a very serious thing for them.
Right.
But yeah, those shows were cool. We got to experience machinery and M1 Abrams tank firing and slow motion of fireballs and
one of Adam's best days of his life, sitting in that thing when it was fired off. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! And we blow up a Subaru that episode.
We did. We did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I
that
mean,
was your car. No, that was.
It was supposed to be my car, but it was a different color.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, mine was blacked out. I think that one was white. Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, whatever. There's
it
no
showed up on camera.
Details.
Well,
That's right.
Dude, I mean, I can't tell you how lucky we are that we got to do that. How lucky I am. I feel to be able to meet you and Adam and Rutledge and
absolutely
Rupert and Hesling, everyone. I mean, it's just such a cool thing. So, one last question before we let you go, though. While we have you here, will you and Rhett and Adam ever do anything similar to a Top Gear, another show together?
Would we, or is that?
Would you, or will you, or could you?
Maybe. You know, we did like a podcast for a short amount of time where we when the shows were all on Hulu, we would watch them. And basically, you remember Mystery Theater 2000?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That little dude. Yeah.
Of course you do. And yeah, the little aliens would sit there and like talk to what was going on in the show. It was always some terrible movie, but they'd be like, "Oh, he's coming," you know. Whatever commentary they had, we would just do commentary on the show, and that was fun. We always loved doing the behind the scenes stuff with Hesling, which would always be like in a hotel room. We mandated that Hesling would buy us alcohol, and you know, by the time we got to the end of the episode of 44 minutes. The commentary was fairly loose, but it's so we enjoy getting together and doing those things, doing things like this and talking and reliving. And I honestly, like I said to you off, you know, before we started talking here, a lot of it's a blur to me. You know, it was like 7 years of just slam bam to this race and that race and this shoot, and I always knew there were cameras there, so I didn't need to film it myself. And I'm bummed a little bit about that, but it's great to talk about it because I remember so much more with somebody who was there. I could see there being some sort of revival of some sort, like a temporary one. You know that Hesling's at NBC now, I think, for unscripted stuff. Yes. And so I'm sure that we could.
No, he's at Fox.
Is it Fox?
Yeah, Fox.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. So the Hessling's at Fox right now with Unscripted, right? It could take two.
Take two.
Yeah, so you never know. I mean, we'd all be down. 150 days a year is a lot, but
Right.
doing some sort of revival thing for fun, and I mean, yeah, I think we'd be all about it. It's especially in hindsight, you realize what a cool opportunity it was to work on a show like this.
Totally, 100%. And you have to put in that rider that you have to have your own AD there, your own special AD to wrangle you guys.
Yes,
because that's what
100%.
it was.
We need Donny. Was it cat wrangling? Yeah, it was like herding cats.
But after being to South America, now I say it's capybara, herding capybara, because the capybara, they don't move. They just sit out in the middle of the dirt road and they won't move.
Some of the capybara. What is it with the
big old rat?
Some of the most dangerous things we did on that show were actually in the rental car after we wrapped. But,
yeah.
I've got two stories. One story, real quick. I've got a dog. She's adorable.
Oh,
Luna.
I saw
a golden retriever.
Yep, beautiful.
Yeah, she's adorable. We North Carolina or something. We wrapped. We're in the car, and the show had been on the air for a little while. This guy pulls us over. I'm driving. I'm going way too fast because we're all late. Rutledge is freaking out, because he's not going to have time to sit down and have like a full sit-down dinner at the airport before his flight. So we get pulled over, and this guy walks up, and I don't even want to know what the number was, but it was at least 20 over 25 probably. And he had me dead to rights. So it was all legit. He walks up and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to need license and registration." He's like, "Wait a minute. Aren't you the three guys?" And Rutledge goes, "Want a picture?" He gets out. He's like, "What you got back there?" He has the guy's hood open in like 12 seconds. He's like, "Oh, is that the high output 3.8? Woo! Those things cook, don't they?" Wow, the guy's like, "Oh, it's got some pretty good torque." Boom, we take a picture. Like, "Thank you, man, so much. Really appreciate it." We get back in the car and just left. And it was amazing. And I was just like, that was the best. Rutledge freaking saved us on that one. But there's some other rental car ones. I don't know if you remember Toronto, getting to the customs people in time in Toronto.
When we dropped you guys off. Oh, that was another great story. The old the amphibious vehicles where Adam went into the drink right after
drowned.
Years. Yeah,
almost genuinely drowned. That
like
was
real.
Probably the closest anybody came in that show to really be ending their
and we'll
life,
talk about that on that episode of how we almost killed Adam several times.
Yeah, except several times. Yeah, but yeah, no, that one. I think I had to get to customs. The police boat had an engine go down on the way to Toronto, so it took an extra hour and a half to get there. And I was going direct from there to a race, and I couldn't miss qualifying. I couldn't be in the race, and they did my customs there. And then the PA was like, "Well, I can't talk to him because you guys were in the middle of Lake Ontario. She couldn't call you." It was her first show, and I'm like, "Well, I'm gonna steal the rental car. I'm so sorry." But
I remember this. You did. You commandeered it.
Yeah, I am going to steal the rental car. I will leave it on the curb somewhere outside the airport, but I have to go and so she's like, "Okay, I'm going." And so we're in there, and she's thinking, "I'm going to lose my job." And I'm like, "No, I guarantee you, they are 3 hours away. Trust me. I just took a police escort, and it took 3 hours to get here. You will not miss them." And everything worked out because you guys were stuck in the middle of the almost ocean. But got there, ran through the thing, made the flight. Anyway, it was always. There was never a dull moment on that show, on or off camera, which is one of the reasons it was so great.
Nope. It was so much fun. One last, God, you just jarred another memory. I'm just going to say Death Valley. Mount Charleston. Mount Charleston. That's all I got to say. We just had a lot of fun. It was like, it seems like whenever we were out in desert for a period of time, it seems like we had to really cut loose when we got back. Like we had to just shake it out. Have a couple of cocktails and shake it all out.
Was that the one where Rutledge was on the pool table singing into the pool cue, like full lip syncing He would have won Jimmy Fallon's lip syncing competition on that.
That's when
that was
when we put him to bed. We got back, everyone was knackered. He went upstairs to bed. And then he came back down, and then we all ended up in the bar. I think we crashed a wedding reception as well.
They loved it though. It was the
Yep.
best.
Yep.
I remember they were huge fans. They were like oh my gosh, that was amazing. I somehow I was left with Rupert,
Oh God, yeah.
the audio
There's someone else.
guy.
Oh, yes, Rob
Donny.
Rosales.
Rob, thank you. Rob and Rupert. Rob was speaking Klingon, I think. That's the closest thing that you could equate it to. And there was and Rupert, he would say something, he'd be like, and Rupert and I would just look at each other like, yeah, so anyway, the blah, 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 and we keep going. And then at the end of the night, I was like, okay, that was too late. Rupert was like, all right, we got to end this night out like we always do. And he had a friend of his had died. And so he's like, we do 3 shots of Sambuca. And I was like, oh God, no, I can't do it. And he's like, you have to. And I was like, oh my gosh. So 3 shots of Sambuca. Rob doesn't
Wait,
make
what
it to
time?
his
What time
room.
was this? What time was this? You did 3 shots.
6.
6 a.m. You said 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Is that right?
All time was, yeah. And Rob doesn't make it to his room. He passes out on the couch in the lobby of the hotel.
That's right. That's right.
I make it to my room. I come down a little bit late. I knew that we didn't have to drive at all for a long time because remember we were modifying the cars to make them more aerodynamic.
Yep.
We got up there. We did a stand up. Eventually Tabitha realized that I should just say nothing because she had me saying, "Wait a minute! If we gain 3 miles per gallon and it's 48 miles, that's 130 or whatever the number is, right?" And she literally gave me, these are the numbers. And I just could not say the numbers without looking drunk or stupid. So she's like, okay, Tanner, you just don't say anything. Just stay there. Don't say a word. So I just shut my mouth. We did the bit. And then for the modifying of our cars, she's like, okay, just come up with let's do some cocky dick thing. And I was like, okay, so my car's good enough. I don't have to modify it. I'm just going to take a nap. And so I just fell asleep. And in the show, I got the hat on my face and I'm genuinely passed the F out. Just completely knackered. Got a full sleep in there while you guys shot for like 3/4 of the day. And then we went to Vegas. It was great.
So you missed out a few parts that I could probably fill in for you. So first, I'm just going to back up to before those 3 shots of Zambuca when the responsible Donny went to bed. But before I went to bed, excuse me, we had to walk out to the motorhome that I drove, that the sober one drove people in to get up to Mount Charleston. And earlier we stopped somewhere, I think, to get the alcohol, and you bought some magazines, some car magazines. Yeah. And so you wanted to get them. So we went back out to the motorhome to get them. And I don't know if you remember, there's a pond out in the front of the hotel, like a lake.
I do remember this. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're like, oh man, I really got to the bathroom. And then someone yelled from some room, you better not do that. And so we stopped and we went to the motorhome and you grabbed the magazines, and then you just dropped them. And then you had to go to the bathroom. So you're going to the bathroom, and I look over at you and I'm like, Tanner, I'm like, you're peeing on your magazines, man. And you just kind of look down. You're just like, oh, whatever, dude. So, and then you guys went back in. And then shortly after that, that's when I went to bed. And the next morning after the 3 shots, whatever happened.
There I was reading my magazines, right?
Yeah,
Next
reading your
morning,
magazine, your pee-stained magazines. They smell good, smell like asparagus. And then I think someone told you, who was it? Someone gave you a beer and told you to shotgun it, and you'd feel better.
Yeah.
And you shotgunned it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Felipe.
Yeah.
And then after that, we had you. What'd you do? You drove backwards. That's right. You drove down the hill backwards in the Jeep to get in position for 1 shot. It was comical.
I wasn't going to mention that since that was a national park land and probably highly illegal to do and maybe outside of permit. But
maybe it's outside of Mount Charleston. Maybe it's
Yeah, I just remember Rupert being like, Tanner, like, think you could drive down that? And I was like, sure.
Yeah.
And I came down and it was so steep at the bottom, there was like a drop off.
Yeah.
And it went and like front bumpered it into the ground, and it kept going. It worked out fine, but yeah.
That was right before Rupert had his head in the snow, trying to cool off, trying to come back to life after a night of fun. But
Oh, he put his head in the snow. Yeah, I was thinking he's the director. As long as I'm with him and we're like on the same plane, we're fine. I show up. I'm like, Tabitha, where's Rupert? Oh, yeah, he's not going to be here till later. And then I knew I was screwed. Yeah, because, 4 hours later or earlier we were drinking. But, yeah, poor Tabitha. She put up with a lot. Oh, my gosh.
She put up with all of us. She had to put up with all of us.
She did.
You know,
with everybody. And for
she was
some
the adult
reason,
in the room.
Anytime, even though she was the adult, anytime we had a football out or a soccer ball or something, I proceeded to beam her in the head. It must have been like 3 or 4 times.
She was a magnet.
Oh, you would just see it. It'd be like, oh, bend it like Beckham, yeah. And be like, oh no. And there she is. And it somehow it found her every time. I felt so bad. But anyway, good time. So good to relive some of those memories. Sorry, Tabitha, for that.
No, Tabs. Well, Tanner, we'll definitely have to thank you for coming on. I can't thank you enough for coming on because it's so good to catch up with you. I mean, it's been a long time. Do consider you a friend. So thanks for doing this.
Absolutely.
At some point, we'd love to have all 3 of you guys back on the podcast to hear all 3 of you jaw about some good stories. So at some point we have to do that, but I just want to thank you again, Tanner. You guys, you're awesome. You're the best. Guys, thanks for checking us out today. Don't forget to check us out. Thanks. Don't forget to check us out on GoForDonny.com. That's our website. This will not only be an audio podcast, but this will also be a YouTube video podcast. So check it out on YouTube. And you can also follow us on the social media. Just go to the website at the bottom. You can go to YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all of those at GoForDonny.com. So thanks for listening, you guys. Go to GFD and subscribe, and remember to HTFU, Tanner. Thanks, buddy.
Oh, gosh. Thank you, Donny. Appreciate it. See you, brother.
Production for Donny.
Go for Donny. Locations for Donny. Go for Donny.
Habitat for Donny.
Go for Donny.
Hey, Donny, what the hell are they doing?